Welcome to the Independence by Design podcast, where we discuss what it means to be a business owner and ways to get unstuck from the day-to-day so we can design a business that gives us a life of independence. So, I'm excited. Clint, good to see you.
Great to see you, man.
I was just telling you as I was going through and I was cleaning up some of the old archives, and you were probably, I'll have to go back and look what episode it was, but I had a picture of one of your blinds.
Yeah.
So that was in the blog that I had from like 2017 or 2018. But did we meet at John Warlow's Value Builder?
Yep.
I think that's what it was. Cause I remember you, me, my dad, and Brandon Henry sitting there. And do you remember Brandon at all?
Yeah, I do.
Because he's in Texas too.
We trained at the same time. Yeah, that's where we bumped into each other originally and just hit it off there.
Yeah. Well, you have been busy. And so you can kind of give the little cliff note of what you've been up to, and what I'm curious. So everybody's gonna follow the journey of my curiosity in this call. But like, you after you got out of that the operating business, was it what blinds was it? What was
Nature
the
blinds, the hunting
nature blinds?
hunting
Yeah,
blind business.
yeah. I love it. And you were you got into the business brokerage space, and I've been watching you. I don't know if you got your pilot's license since, but I know you've been, I don't know, man. I just love you on Facebook. It's just fun to watch you. So why don't you give us the cliff note?
Yeah, I mean, the flying story is interesting. It's kind of a side note. So, my life is just kind of a weird weaving of multiple tales between aviation and business, and also some Christian ministry stuff that's important to me as part of it. But I learned to fly airplanes when I was a teenager. I went to a magnet school in kind of like an inner city school in Texas that had special funding for STEM programs because I couldn't afford to get my pilot's license, but I always wanted one. And so if I went to this program at the school, this magnet school for 4 years, I would get to get my pilot's license for free my senior year. And so I did that, and then that led to, um, getting to go to NASA my senior year, and, like, I got to fly on the Vomit Comet, the KC-135 they train astronauts in, zero gravity over the Gulf of Mexico.
I never knew any of this.
Yeah, so I had,
No
like, this
way.
crazy story as a high schooler learning to fly and going to NASA, and that helped me get a pretty much a full ride scholarship to a top aerospace school. I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Arizona, and was originally gonna be a pro pilot.
How did none of this come up in any of our previous conversations?
So it's like I have this super weird story.
I love it.
Like, I was originally gonna be a pro pilot, and I became a flight instructor, commercial rated pilot, put myself through school doing various sales and marketing jobs because it was still expensive to my academic was covered by my, scholarship, but I still needed to pay for my flying hours, and that's more than you can afford to pay a hourly fast food job or something, so I started doing, like, um, all kinds of sales jobs, marketing jobs, and, put myself through flight training doing business stuff at a young age, um, and just kinda discovered I liked business, I liked sales, and all my friends that were graduating and going to fly for airlines were telling me how miserable it was and how little they got paid and how they didn't have any control of their schedules, and it kinda dawned on me that I was like, "Man, I think I realized, like, I really like airplanes, but I don't think I wanna be, like, a corporate ladder climber."
What if I go make money and buy my own plane?
Yes, yes, so that thought occurred to me because I kept running into people. It was like I lived 2 lives. I had this life around my, because I grew up kind of on the struggle bus with single mom raising me and just a bunch of hardship crap that happened as a kid. And I thought my ticket out was like the typical, like, get a good education, get a good job.
Mhm.
And
The Main Street narrative of
yeah,
like I
and
can
and
work.
that's what
Yeah.
my mom wanted me to do, and she's actually a small business person that was working 7 days a week for the family nursery business. We're in the nursery garden center
Oh,
business.
cool.
Um, but,
Still?
like, we are, yeah, so that's another wrinkle is I just bought it last year with my brother. I bought the family business, and But yeah, my brother's the CEO of it and runs it, and I'm a partner with him on it. But yeah, like she, told all of his kids to like, don't do what I'm doing. Don't be a small business person. This is too hard. She was giving us the traditional like college career advice, and I was following it. But I kind of just stumbled into entrepreneurship, and I discovered no, entrepreneurship is really in my DNA. I went from uh, sales jobs to eventually starting companies. But yeah, I had that idea of like, you know what? I'd rather just work for myself than a big company, and maybe I'll just fly for myself one day. Like that. That's even plan. So I finished my degree, even though I knew by about my junior senior year of college that I probably wasn't going to go the pro pilot route. I was like, I'll just finish all my ratings and I'll at least have that as a fallback. So if I don't, I could always go back to pro flying if I need to, but I thought I'd try my hand at business. So I kind of went on this really weird circular journey to, um, those early years in my 20s. I did a few different careers. I never did anything longer than about 2 or 3 years before I got bored, maxed it out, and wanted to do something else. And I just kinda had that ADD entrepreneurial,
What was
bent.
driving you? Like, what was there like? Was there anything? Because like the reason that the reason behind my question is like I look at my past and I can now in hindsight see some of the through line of the decisions, but at the time it was kind of like I was testing things out.
I think it was just kind of observing, and there was kind of this common theme, which was some of my smartest friends, which I had friends that were literally rocket scientists because of the school that I went
Right,
to.
right, like literally.
Yeah, they're literally going to NASA and SpaceX and these, and um, getting jobs at Lockheed and all these places, and other friends that are going to airlines, and they were some really smart, nerdy people. And then I had this other life where I was doing network marketing and different sales jobs and making good money there on the side. And I was meeting all these other people that were like kind of dumb, but they were rich and happy. and I was like, And I was like, always
Huh.
trying to force myself into this, like, no, you're supposed to be really smart because being really smart is how you get ahead. But then my observation was different. And so one of my first jobs out of college, for example, was I sold aviation insurance. So
Oh,
I
okay.
was a good salesman. I could speak aviation
Yeah.
and I'd crashed a plane before. So it was like
I
all
got
this,
the best case study for this, and
yeah. So I'm like,
I'm
I was like,
uniquely qualified.
I was like made to sell aviation insurance. So I like joined a company, and for 3 years I was like the number 1 salesman at this national aviation insurance firm. But again, it was like I would go to the conferences, I would go to the trade shows where they're like selling business jets and helicopter shows. I went to the MBAA or MBAA, the HAI.
I've been there,
Oh, you
Clint.
have? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
actually had
I
a
was one
friend.
of
He
the
was in
monkeys.
the industry, and then I went there. I actually got to sit in a Black Hawk. They had a Black
Yeah.
Hawk in the middle. Yeah, it's wild,
Those
wild trade show, man. Yeah,
Those conferences are sick. Like
yeah, yeah,
I
totally.
loved going to them. But like I was the monkey in the suit, right? Man in the booth, hoping that these rich people would give me a chance to write their insurance
Policies,
policy.
yeah, yeah.
But all the rich people were walking around in like jeans and t-shirts.
The
And
Hawaiian shirts and the cargo pants.
yeah,
Like, what's
it's
going
like
on here?
you start observing this, it's like, all right, the smartest people that are doing all the right things, they're the ones that are like servants of the rich people. But I'm like, what are these rich people doing? And they're all business owners. Like they all own
Yeah,
businesses.
yeah. I love it
And then
so
when I
much.
started like getting them as clients, so I started getting all these high net worth clients, and I'm just curious George here. So I would be like asking these people like, how did you get into this? How did this start? And all this. And I would just learn about how did they get to where they're at, like owning a private jet that I'm insuring. And then they would introduce me to people, and they would be like, they'd be like, "Hey, this is Clint. He's my agent. He's amazing. He's the smartest guy I know." And they would be, like, "He saved us tons of money. He rewrote our whole thing." And I'm like, "I don't wanna be," but inside, I was like, "I'm making 60 grand a year, and I'm driving like a Ford Taurus with hail damage to your private jet." and you think I'm smarter than you, and I feel really dumb because I probably am, but I'm not
Sure, why or
sure
what
at
and on
all.
what level? Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so it just started realizing, like, the key to success isn't brains, and it's not following the rules. It's like all these people just kinda made their own way. Education was not a huge factor in their success, and it was kinda like the Rich Dad Poor Dad
totally, man.
thinking, but I just lived it out, and I read that book, and I read a bunch of other business books, and I just realized, like, I gotta get on that side of the table. Like, I wanna be one of the jeans wearing smart, dumb, rich dumb rich
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that's
yeah, I'm
happy,
tracking you.
and instead of, like, the miserable suit wearing smart person that's not that successful, but just kind of
Oh,
yeah, so that's what put me on
I
a path towards entrepreneurship.
there's so much to unpack there, dude. I just gotta say, dude, well, I think that's why Clint, I mean, I immediately liked you when we were at that conference because, like, I will resonate. I'll share with you, like, everything you said, like, completely hits home for me. My dad, 3rd grade twice, barely graduated White Bear Lake High School, instilled in me, "You can do whatever you want because I don't know what I'm doing," and apparently I figured it out, and so, like, I was just like, and honestly, Clint, like, because, like, growing up in a copier sales, family, we were wearing suits and no one trusted us. My dad was the like, but then we would go to the Canon conferences, and everybody that owns a dealership is doing whatever they want, and it was the same thing where, like, and I've there's so many unique things about what you said where because after we sold and I went then and when I was at the conference, I'm like, I had this like allergic reaction to being on the services side from the entrepreneurs who I resonate with. And like it was this horrible identity crisis for me for years. And I was in the middle of it when I met you. And it was just like because of all the things you just said. And I'm just like, and I was just on a call with all my owner operator coaching clients. And Darren, God bless his soul, he's got a very successful boiler reseller business, very successful. He's like, Ryan, this ain't a boiler, man. But he is really successful. And I'm like, we're walking through all this stuff. So it's, I don't know, man. I appreciate it. And I resonate with everything you said.
Yeah, so yeah, that's I guess what led me to entrepreneurship and
How did you get in the brokerage space after because you were a business broker after was it Texas Business Buyers or something like that when you and I met, right?
yeah, so fast forward, I've been in the business brokerage M&A world for about 10 years. So I think I was pretty new to it when we first met. Um, but I was kind of a serial entrepreneur at that point. I had started Nature Blinds, the manufacturing hunting blind company. I sold it 2 years later, and then I helped another tech startup get going, and I was kind of becoming like a startup guy. I've raised angel investors 3 times, uh, for pre-revenue startups in the 7 figures, and so far I'm 3 for 3 with those all being successful startups. Um, and so, like, I have a pretty good hand at, like, raising money and startups, but when you're young and having kids and trying to like, the startup game gets kinda old, um, and you kinda yearn for, like what led me to this space was I was like, "You know what? I need to take a break from startups, and I just need to buy a business that can be kind of like a cash cow business to take care of my family with." Because we have 4 kids. We're a homeschool family. My wife is, like, the full-time mom, and I'm the sole breadwinner, and when I'm just doing startups, I'm going through these huge peaks and valleys
It's a
of
whipsaw of emotions
of, like,
and financials.
no
Yeah.
income for long periods of time, and I'm like, "Man, this is no way to raise a family. I need to have, like, some base of stability," and
How old are
so
your kids?
today they are I've got 3 about to be teenagers. So they're 16, 14, 12, 10. They're all having
Whew,
birthdays
you're in
this
it.
summer.
You are in it.
Yeah, so when I was, starting my entrepreneurial journey, they were all little. And I wanted and so I had some capital from my first exit, and I was like, "I'm just gonna go buy a business that's making good money, and and then that'll be the thing that I, like, steward and keep that pays the bills." So, I'm tired of having, like, these years where I'll have negative cash flow for 12 months a year until I have a big hit or something like that. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to have cash flow every month? And
It'd be a little bit better
yeah,
for the stress hormones.
and so I didn't even know because I was a startup guy. I didn't even know you could buy a business, but I just stumbled into it. I stumbled into biz buy sell, and I think I was just searching for franchise opportunities or something like that because I thought I
So
might.
is it because that's an easy entry point for this idea of like, oh, like, I know I could go in and get, were there certain franchises that you're looking at, or
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking at franchises because again, I didn't know you could buy established businesses, but a lot of the places that sell franchises also sell established businesses. And so
mm,
I think it was probably by like Googling franchise opportunities that discovered Biz by Sell. And then
mhm.
I was like, oh, wait, people are just selling like real businesses that are
Are
already
you talking
going.
like 2015 then or something
Yeah,
like
it was
that?
like 2014,
Okay.
2013, 14.
'Cause like, I think that's an
None of this
important time.
ecosystem existed.
Ri
Like
I was just gonna say that's such
there
an
was
important time
no
zone. Yep.
There was no Harvard HBR guide to buying a business. There was no buy then build. There was no Cody Sanchez. There was nobody teaching this stuff. Um, and so I'm literally just Googling it and stumbling into it. And then I was like, wait, I have a little money. I have a little business experience. I could buy one of these businesses that's already cash flowing. And then I don't have to do a startup. I can just already be making money. And I spent like a year trying to pull that off. I thought it'd be quick and easy, like, in a few months, I'd be able to find something, close on it, buy it, because I checked all the boxes. I was, like, really well qualified buyer. I had cash, I had experience, I had all the time in the world to dedicate to getting a deal done, and I just struck out. Like,
Do you know Elliot Holland by chance?
yeah, I know Elliot, yeah.
He was just on the podcast, and we were talking about the stats that he was kind of putting a little asterisk, like, I think they're roughly right, but he's like 100,000 searchers nowadays and like 5,500 deals get done. But I laugh my ass off, Clint, because he had the same story. He was a searcher, and he goes, I didn't get hit by the luck bus. And that's what he called it. Like, cause like, I mean, him, like you could be qualified, you could spend the time, you could do everything right. And it's just it's just hard.
Yeah, it was tough, and so, like, I eventually snapped, and I was like, "This is ridiculous," like and I was thinking about it in terms of I bought houses, and on the internet, you can find a house, pretty much get 99% sure this is the one I'm gonna buy before you even touch it and see it, and then going and seeing it's just like that last step before you make your offer and do it, but you need very little human interaction, it's just like you can get you there, but I'm like, the internet the same internet, when it comes to buying a business, only gets you like 5% of the way there.
I totally agree.
And
Yeah.
you've got to do the 95% and you get lost along the way and you don't get callbacks and you get ghosted and there's a lot of bait and switch. There's a lot of shady operators and used car salesman type brokers and
All of it. It's just
overpriced.
like every trap known to
Yeah.
man.
And it was just like complete minefield to try to navigate. And I was like, dang it, someone needs to make this easier. And then I eventually was like, why not me? And so I decided to do another startup, which was a really buyer friendly brokerage is what I created. Where I was like, if I was a broker, I would just find good stuff and like thoroughly package it so it's easy for people to understand. And then it'd be easy to sell if you just pick the good ones. And I just was like, I just find businesses I would want to buy if I was the buyer, package them up, sell them. And it was just common sense kind of stuff. I'll answer my phone and I'll use, electronic signatures instead of
Yep.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I'll use a CRM and, like, other brokers didn't know what a CRM was at that, 10 years ago, and so I had a little bit of tech background and just a little bit of a chip on my shoulder and a little bit of, like, didn't know what I didn't know, a little bit of cockiness, and thought, I can come in here and shake up this industry and be the best broker around, and I didn't know how hard it was. I didn't know.
What were some of the things that you either underestimated, overestimated, or that were different than anticipated?
I think I think I underestimated the complexity because I've always wanted to do more of a tech forward assembly line approach to do it to deal making from the beginning, and I'm now feel like I'm arriving there with my new company, Deal Nominee, which I can get to in a minute. But I was like, when I started, I'm just one guy in my garage. I just I learned how to value companies. I got a valuation certification. I got the value builder certification with you. So I learned how to like what makes a company tick, what makes it valuable. And then I got certifications from the IBBA, the International Business Brokers Association, to just kind of like learn the skill set of how do you run a transaction, how do you value a company. But what I found out is like every deal is so different. Um, Industry to industry is so different. Um, Financial structures are totally different. Stock versus asset sales versus and then just capital capex light, capex heavy business models, and working capital included, not included. And when you're a generalist working across all industries, it's like every single deal is a new industry, and you're like, man, this has a whole lot of wrinkles I didn't know were a thing. And so I felt like I had to kind of take my lumps of learning by doing as an industry agnostic main street broker and just learning a ton. But I enjoyed it because for the first time in my life, I was able to stick with something for more than a few years because brokering across all these industries kind of
Wildly
gave,
different. Yeah,
yeah,
the ADD fix, right?
yeah, it scratched that shiny object ADD itch, but without me having to jump ship all the time
Yeah,
to a new
totally.
thing.
I'm tracking. Yep.
So I found myself like, 5 years in, 7 years in, still having fun, and now I've got a little team around me, we're winning awards, becoming we were called Texas Business Buyers, and we were becoming one of the best brokerages in the state of Texas. Um, the How I got to where I am now was a lot of it happened through, again, kind of a stroke of luck, but I was during the COVID years, I was I lost, like, a huge amount of my pipeline because
Mm. Hmm.
I had oil and gas deals. I had, like, a catering company, a couple restaurants, hospital, like,
Oh, rough. All from the yeah,
yeah,
like
I had, like, a short-term rental management
boom,
company.
boom, boom, just
It was,
shoot
like
dead on arrival. Yeah.
like, all the stuff that just got completely annihilated by the
Yeah.
lockdowns was, like, my pipeline, and I was like, "Shit," like,
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
I got nothing to sell. I'm trying to get a PPP loan. I'm, like, and I go on Twitter learning about other stuff, and I discovered this, like, SMB ecosystem. SMB attorney was on there, one of
Okay.
the
Yeah, I
other
follow him
names.
on X. Yep.
Um, but there was, like, no brokers on there, but I found there was thousands of kinda wannabe buyers and wannabe gurus, like, trying to teach how to buy and sell businesses, and a lot of the stuff that was being told, I was like, "That's not really how it works," like,
That's about how I feel every time I pull up my phone. But yeah.
yeah, because I'm like, nobody's really got the seller and the broker's perspective here because it's all these, like, starry-eyed buyers that think this is how you do it, and I'm like, "Yeah, right," like, that's not really how it works most of the time. And so I just after I again snapped and was like, "Somebody needs to set the record
Yeah.
straight here." And so I started a Twitter account. I had only had, like, an anonymous lurker account I was just consuming on there, but I started a Clint Fiore one and was like, "I'm gonna set the record straight. I'm just gonna type." I had some free time during COVID, and so I just wrote threads, and I wrote, like, everything I know about how to do small business transactions, and I just poured my heart into, like, writing some stuff. I had some stuff go kinda niche viral, and before I know it, I just got this really fast growing account and becoming one of the thought leaders in Main Street M&A. And a year or 2 later, I'm probably one of the best known brokers in all of the country, mainly from just ranting and tweet storming and on Twitter. And then that led to, like, all of a sudden I'm super popular in this space. I'm being asked on podcasts, I'm being asked to speak places, and I'm one of the best known brokers. But it, like, didn't actually help my business because it was like all of a sudden I had fans kind of like across the country that were all like, "I really like how you do business." And the most common thing I would hear is like, "I hate business brokers. I think they all suck, but you're okay. Like, I think
You
I would
hate
love
me.
Yeah, like, I wish more brokers were like you. I wish I could buy a business from you. It's too bad you're only in Texas. Like, that's what I would hear over and over again every day. And then eventually I was like, this sucks. Like, every time I bring a deal to market now, it's like I'm having to work 10 times harder for the same amount of money because I used to get like 20 or 30 NDAs signed at 2 or 3 offers, and now I'm getting 2 or 300 NDAs signed, 20, 30 offers, and
Oh,
all these people wanna
interesting.
talk to me, and all these people wanna talk to our team, and it's like we're all having to it's like we're so
You're sifting
swarmed.
through more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fascinating problem as a result of more. That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So stop me anytime if I'm ranting too much here,
No,
but
no, this is, I think the context is so important, Clint, because, you know, what, we got a good chunk of time that we got carved out here. And like, what, outside of me just jumping in and ranting too, because I mean, it's been 7, 8 years and like I have had quite the slog myself on my side. And I think from why I was excited to catch up is like, I do want to know what you've experienced over the time since we really got to spend more, decent quality time together because I liked your mindset from the beginning. Right. And like what I have found, and like because I interviewed Elliot, like, I don't know, like a couple weeks ago. Walker and I have been in touch, and I've been doing similar to you. I've been doing this now for 11 years, and there's been the through line. And like what I find really enjoyable now, Clint, is I get to revisit relationships like this and be like, what have you been learning, man? And like, this shit's way effing harder than everybody says it is. There's a lot of complications behind. I mean, I had grand ideas too when I met you, and like I can tell you, like the couple that I had then were just impossible. They were good ideas, and I spent a lot of money and a lot of time. And like one of the things that you said is like, I have all this buyer information, right? And I don't know what to do with it. And I feel like that's going to be tied into what you're doing now. But I think one comment before that, just to open up the box, Clint, is I have spent now the last better part of like 3, 4 years, well, with my CFO business, hundreds and hundreds of companies that I saw inside the financial stuff. Not just kind of, but like not only like saw the financials on like a discovery call, but then like had them as clients, dove through them, and like financials are a shit show. People don't understand anything about business valuation. So I spend a disproportionate amount of my time on like, here's how the three statements interact together and how to look at future cash flow. Normalized EBITDA is not cash after working capital, debt, and taxes and reinvestment. They're like, you have to like, there's valuations, deal structures. It has to work. These are the mechanics. And so I want to throw that all out there because I have gone so far into the weeds with my audience and myself, of like weighted average cost of capital, how all this stuff works, so that way we can be the people in jeans and a t-shirt doing what we want. And like what my kind of what I landed was like, I had to learn all that stuff so I could still wear a black t-shirt without anybody telling me to put on a collared shirt. So all that being said is like, I think the context is helpful because you and I could geek out, but it's helpful for me to understand what you've been going through to land at where you're at, because it's not a straight line.
totally. Yeah, ultimately, I think we have to zoom out, and like, why are we here? Like, what are we even doing? What is the point of all this? Because there's certainly easier ways to make
Are you
money.
talking about life or business? Because I could go all the way to the life, man. On
Oh, I'll
YouTube,
go.
I
I'll go with the metaphysical, wherever you want to go, man. Well,
on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Clint, I've got a video there. It's understanding the meaning of life, God, and money.
yeah.
So I make the through line between the three statement model, Bitcoin, and psychology and God. So
All right, all right. I have no fear of going any of those directions. Um,
so yeah, where do you want to go with it then? Because like I think it's so helpful to
I
like.
was thinking just like in the business context is like I think people get so um I think people get attracted because of the dollars and cents of this stuff. And it's like the oversimplified numbers of like, all right, you buy a cash flowing business with leverage, you get a higher ROI than anything you can get in real estate, etc. And it's like you're making money month one. These loans pay themselves off in just a few years if you aggressively pay down the debt. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that sexy? Isn't that fun? And so I think people get drawn in for like the wrong reasons almost for, like, the dollars and cents, the ROI, but they don't
And
realize, like
the easiness
yeah,
behind the ROI and
mhm,
dollars and cents, right?
but they don't realize, like, how hard it is to actually find and get a deal done. They don't know how hard it is to actually be an entrepreneur and to hire and fire people and, deal with all the fires and drama you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis as a business owner, and I almost think, like, you gotta have a better motivation than just making some bucks here, like, and to me, I liked your, um I mean, just the independence by design, the the name of your pod is, like is exactly what business ownership should be about, right? It's like the to me, that's the bigger win, is, like, it's literally the only way that I know of that you can just kinda really engineer the life of your dreams, but it's not easy, and there's a whole lot you gotta learn and that goes into it, but ultimately, like, I'm doing things now that had I stayed and just kept killing it in my career and stuff and climbing the corporate ladder, I'd never be able to live the lifestyle I enjoy now, which has only come because I dedicated myself to learning entrepreneurship and running my own business and and now I feel like working in this industry, I get this sacred privilege of, like, helping other people engineer their dream lives, and that's really, like, our mission statement at our company is, like,
So cool, dude.
we're trying to help people engineer their dream life, and that's really
Um,
the buyer and the seller, like,
yeah, yeah.
they're both turning a chapter of their life and reinventing themselves in a whole new way, and they just happen to cross paths at this magical moment where both of their lives change forever, and I get to be right there when it
Well,
happens.
and right there, and most likely a significant responsibility and role in making that the best possible outcome for both parties because the and one of my, you've used the word chip on your shoulder and something to prove, and I resonate with all those things. And like the things that I struggle with is like all the advisors too, Clint. It's just like this, like the sheer, like I have like these visuals of like, there's the whale and then like the big and then all of the fish eating off of the whale. That's what I think business owners are, and it's all of the
Yeah,
advisors.
just
Just like,
swinging on
"But is there some cash flow there for me?" And just
yep,
like, and it's like no one's gonna say, "Hey, by the way, there's different ways to think about this stuff." And like here, like, and so it's a big responsibility that I think of like, okay, how, and I'm curious, it sounds like curious on how you think about this. Like for me, it took a while, Clint, engineering how I make my money while being a service to this situation without going into private equity and going into investment. Like there were certain things that I could have done. I was just like, this doesn't match up with how I want to live my life. And then it's like, well, then how do you do it in a way that's economical? And I'm curious on how, where Deal Nominee and your brokerage space fit into this because like there are true constraints with the Pareto principle of like where the cash flow actually is and how many people have jobs versus actually have something that could cash flow a buyout. And like, so like, there's all these constraints that I see in this space that are fascinating to me and like how little, how hard it is to find the truth of what the real landscape is.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I've faced a decision point about a year ago where it was like, I had to decide if I'm gonna reinvent myself again, because I was kind of I was doing well with our brokerage, but we were kind of like just a busy sell side regional
Do you have like a
cranking out
top stop on like how much volume and like, because you're talking like a few million bucks, like a,
yeah, like we'd sell probably 10 companies a year.
okay,
So, there were times I'm closing a deal a month. We're
yep.
mostly doing seven-figure deals and, making good money. I've got, so I've got like 4 kids. We have a little airplane we're flying around at this point, so I'm kinda living the dream flying for myself. Got a 6-seat plane that fits our family as a little,
That's so cool.
flying minivan kinda thing, going on adventures and traveling and helping people do deals, but you kind of reach a bandwidth constraint, and then it's getting exacerbated by the influx of buyers, that happened because
Mhm.
I happened to tread into the social
Mhm.
media world and became a well-known teacher, in this space. But again, it was like almost becoming frustrating because it was like, cool, I'm super popular, but it's like not growing my bank account and it's like making my team's life harder. And then I just realized there's this a few things happen, and I'm glad you got this whole bookshelf behind you full of books because I know you're an avid reader. I'm a reader as well, and sometimes you just read the right thing at the right time.
I
And
love
one
your
of the
little book post, man.
yeah, one of those moments for me was like I think it was a couple years ago. I read the $100 Million Offers book by Alex
Mhm.
Hormozy, um, and it's a super good book. But the very basic premise of it was like you should have an offer that's so good that basically your customer is an idiot if they say no.
Right. Yep.
And I realized like my core offering was pretty much like every other broker. And I only stayed busy because of my social media presence making me kind of popular, but it didn't like but I wasn't really differentiated because essentially what all brokers are saying is the same thing. They're all saying, "Hey, sign this exclusive listing with me to sell your business." Why? Because I'm the best. What do you charge? The same as everyone else, like,
Mhm. Mhm. And
but
I will get you max price with the buyer that you love and get it done on your terms.
yeah, but we all say the same thing.
Yeah.
And, but yet I've got like 10, 100 times more buyers than I need. And I'm competing with all these other brokers with the exact same pitch. And I was like, I need $100 million offer. Like, I need, and the real like constraint here is sellers because I was like, man, if I could have 10 times more sellers, I could sell 10 times as many businesses because I've got 10 times as many buyers as I need easily. Like if I, and they're good ones, like I've got a great buyer network, stuff sells through really fast. And I'm like, I need more sellers and I need to differentiate myself and I need to get bigger than just my social media
Yep.
presence.
Is it
And
more sellers or is it more sellable businesses or both?
good sellers is what I would say.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've always like historically for the past 10 years, I've turned away about 75% of sellers because they just didn't meet the standard.
Mhm.
And that's part of why I was successful was like I just didn't waste time with stuff that was too
You knew you
small.
couldn't sell or was the
Their
wrong
book
expectations or
yeah, their books were too messed up. That's too wrapped around the owner. They're too small. Like, they're just fishing for a crazy offer, but they're not real serious about it. And so for me, like I've defined what I think a good deal is. And that's like a motivated seller so they can articulate a real reason they want or need to sell. They're realistic about their valuation expectations, and they've got a strong history of earnings with cleanish financials that are clean enough to get banked, and because most buyers want to leverage and get bank loans. And so I'm kind of looking for all those things. Um, and if I don't check all those check boxes, kind of next, it's like I'll send them to somebody else to fix them up and get them ready to sell. But like I'm not in that business anymore. I
get
got out
them
of
their expectations more aligned, right?
Yeah, so I got out of that consulting gig pretty quick because it was like I liked it, but I just didn't have time with all the
Mhm.
folks I talked to take them down that journey. Um,
What's the ratio, dude? Is it like 8 to 1, 9 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1? Like what one, 1 to 5, like ones that you want versus people that are in that latter bucket?
1 to 4, like one
One
to
to four.
three.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and 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 I think we do pretty good, like on our website and on our stuff. We kind of like communicate what we're looking for, and I think a lot of people self-select out and know like, okay, I'm not
Okay.
of that size, but I'll still get the random Facebook friend who tells me, "Oh yeah, my friend really needs to sell their business," and it's like the ice cream shop they opened up 3 months ago that's lost money every month, and they're, like, bleeding out, and
I
they're
will
like
gladly buy it for 5 pails of
yeah,
ice cream.
yeah. I'm like, "I don't do that, sorry." My heart goes out to 'em. I love that they tried, I love
Mhm.
entrepreneurs at all levels, but for us to make a good living as as brokers, like, we gotta find the stuff that's got the
Mhm.
size, got the bankability, and has transferable
What
earnings.
is the actual, like, revenue or EBITDA or value size that you're
I
planning?
I've set a floor for our business of 250,000 of SDE or
Yep.
EBITDA
Mhm.
as the smallest we'll go, mainly because I think that's about the minimum even a starter buyer, like a smaller buyer can needs to be able to, like, make a living and service debt. You know, because most people, they wanna make 100 grand or more, and if you're not there, you're dead in the water, but even if you're there, you gotta have enough for acquisition debt, you know, so, like,
I know. It's in I know, man. Like, I get really concerned, and my concern comes from just the macroeconomics behind this, Clint, of like all of the BS about like the $10 trillion baby boomer tsunami and all this crap. I'm like, most of these are unfundable on a transaction and no one's talking about it. And I'm sitting here going, like, even if you had $1 million in normalized EBITDA, the valuation expectation of the seller, and after working capital, debt, taxes, and owner's comp and all that stuff, you're going, you're squeezing a lot out of this to make this shit happen. If it's a 10-year SBA loan at the 10% and I'm going like, my heart goes out for you, dude. Cause I'm sitting there going like, you are out there like shooting unicorns. And like, and it's not just one, you got to find two unicorns and get the bank to agree and to get the, I'm just going, oh my God, you are underpaid most likely.
it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. Like, I really like 500,000 and up. Like, I've done a ton of deals in the 500,000 to 1,000,000 of EBITDA range, and I think that is such a sweet spot for individual buyers because 'cause you're buying, like, there's enough there to service debt, make a good living, reinvest, and grow this company, and you're close to getting over that hurdle to where you start to be a seven-figure earnings company that starts to get the attention of private equity and things like that down the road, but, like, when you're still at high six figures, you're kind of under their radar,
Totally. It's a
and
no man's land is what I
and
call it.
yeah, and the multiples aren't real high, it's just a great business to
Are
buy.
you, what do you see from the, agreed on the like, if I looked at the spreadsheet and the cap structure and the buyout structure, I would agree with you wholeheartedly that the challenge that I've seen is those individuals that are selling who are making 250 to 3, 4, or 500 have like $1 million in savings and there's a mismatch between their retirement and what they're making. And so like there's this valuation gap. And more specifically, I've seen it's the complete exhaustion on the job that they're, so like it's like this weird, like, I want out, I want ideal purchase price, but then all of a sudden there's too much intercommingling of the job and the asset that becomes it. I mean, do you see the same thing? Are you still trying to unicorn hunt
Yeah,
in the middle of that?
no, I think the probably the most important skill set of a business broker is kind of the compassionate bubble bursting evaluation of the seller. Like, that's become like
There's a lot of psychology there, right?
that's
It's
the
just like,
master skill. Um, because what
walk me
ends up
through it,
happening
man. I want to, let's do a little role play here. All right, Clinton.
so let's say you've got the $500,000 earning small business owner. Imagine it's your parent, you know, and they're making a great living, but they bought their building a long time ago. They don't pay themselves rent. Um, they you tell them like, I can sell your business for 3x of earnings or something where it's like I can get you 1.5 million for this business. Well, they start thinking, man, I could just not sell and I make that much in 3 years. And they Googled before they came, like, what does an HVAC company sell for or something? And the most publicly available data is like the big deals. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
private
the
equity
total
stuff.
distortion. Yep.
And the big HVAC deals trade at crazy multiples, like people getting 10x or more
Mhm.
um, on their
If they even know what earnings is,
yeah.
right? And like,
And
what are we,
so
what are we actually negotiating
so they
upon,
come
right?
into the meeting. They come into the meeting thinking, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for you to get me my $5 million." Like that's in their head. Like they know all day long because their initial they talked to a golf buddy, they did some googling, they think they should be able to get $5 million for this
Okay, I
company.
got it. Okay, so this is a true story, Glenn. One of my dad's friends, he's one of his really good friends from high school. God rest his soul, Charlie. He owned one of the larger HVAC companies in Minnesota here. He's no longer with us. And I was like, Charlie, and this is back when I had met you, and I was trying to, I can't even imagine when I said it was probably a bunch of jumbled up mess, but I was like, Charlie, I can help you. He's like, Ryan, all I have to do is wait till I'm 55. I sell this thing for $5 million, and you don't pay any taxes after you're 55. And I was like, really? And Chuck literally runs the business. It was doing like $8 million, Clint.
Yeah.
He'd come over at 10 o'clock at night, fix my HVAC with his butt crack showing. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to buy this for 10 million or $5 million, Chuck. And I can see your butt, and you pay taxes anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have to kind of like break it down like this. I do an hour long or so presentation. We'll take their financials in. We'll look at it three different ways. We do an asset approach, an income approach, and a market approach to value.
Have you done a
And
bunch of qualifications before you're spending that hour?
yeah, we make sure that the motivation to sell is there. We make sure the revenue is there. And then from some initial conversation, we have a good idea that they're making enough SDE earnings that it's
Mhm.
going to be worth our time
For
to
the
kind of,
for the listeners, because I don't talk a lot about SDA. I've been talking a lot about ownership distributions and normalized EBITDA and stuff, but like
yeah.
SDE from your side.
So just let's pretend we're talking about companies that make less than $2 million or so in profit. Like that is what I would call like Main Street world. And in Main Street world, you typically don't use EBITDA for your valuation. You use what's called SDE. And the reason you do that is because the owners pay perks, lifestyle, and discretionary spending that's run through the company is usually a huge part of the earnings of the company. And so basically what SDE is it's kind of like what you could theoretically make on a normal year if you were the owner and you got all the net profit plus all of the owners pay perks, lifestyle, discretionary spending and stuff like that all.
Because you're buying a job.
Yeah, so it's like all the owner benefit of this company. So we kind of start at net profit and then we do the interest add backs and depreciation add backs like you would a middle
Mhm.
market company and the EBITDA adjustments. But then we look at what's the pay, perks, and benefits of the full-time working owner, and we add that together. And so you end up with kind of like a larger income stream, but that has a smaller multiple on it for the valuation. And then as the buyer, that's kind of like the fire hose of potentially available income that you have available to pay yourself. Or if you don't want to run it, that's what you would pay a GM out of. And then you also have to service debt out of that income, and any growth CapEx you wanna do comes out of that, so it's like there's a lot of like you were saying, and
Yeah.
that
Well,
comes
it
out.
becomes really, and that's why I like my heart goes out for all of these people and you. Cause like, I mean, I almost bought a garage door company in 2020. I had an LOI in February of 2020. I would have gotten a decent deal on it. Compared to where it went. But like Clint, after I ran the numbers, because I didn't want to be the GM. It was about 25 employees, 800 grand, and normalized EBITDA. And I think it was actually SDE actually as we were going through it. I was thinking normalized EBITDA because I wanted to place a GM on it. But like I ran through then reinvestment of all the bullshit that needed to be reinvested and built out because the person it was very aged individual, like, and their company's operations were, I mean, it's like people would drool over it, right? Like, so like this is exactly what everybody would talk from a buyer's perspective. But what happened after hiring someone for 150, doing the SBA loan, looking at working capital, looking at all this stuff, it would have been like 5 grand a month to me. And I'm like, that's if nothing gets screwed up. How about worldwide lockdowns like 30 days later? And so back to your point, I think that's why the SDE is so important
Yeah,
because
so I kind of view it like you gotta understand SDE as a construct if you're gonna be fishing in Main Street because
yeah,
that's the main, like, earnings, uh,
mechanism. Yep.
mechanism that, like, brokers use and banks and SBA lenders use. They all think SDE more so than EBITDA on Main
Mhm.
Street SBA
Mhm.
loan type deals. Um, I would tell your listeners if you're thinking about buying, um, don't look at anything under 250,000 SDE, period, unless you're already owning a business and it's going
Yeah.
to be like an add-on or something.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if it's your first deal, don't look at smaller than that. There's just not enough there. But if you're thinking of like not being the GM, like Ryan was saying, like I wouldn't look at anything under 500,000 in SDE. Um, if you don't want to be full time, 40 hours a
Because
week
even
work.
that was 800 and it was
Yeah,
still, yeah,
like you're just dead in the water under 500. If once you start backing out debt service and paying a GM
yep,
and all
yep,
that, and
yep.
having a margin of safety, there's just not enough there. But
Are
yeah,
most of the people that you're working with on the buyer side planning on working in the
a
company?
lot of them, a lot of
Yeah,
them, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. A lot of people are corporate refugees, or they're tired of working for the man, making other people rich, and they're kinda like what I was working in the insurance industry is like, "I'm tired of helping all these rich people get richer, like, I'd like to have my turn here,"
Mhm.
and so
Elliot, Elliot helped me, and I think maybe it was like a little bit of my stop being on my phone because like I was like I'm just so sick and tired of people pretending it's easy. I'm like I'm just way over it. And Elliot was like, Ryan, like he gave me some good pushback. I appreciated it. I was like, he's like, you know, these are the people that are in it to do this. Like you got to give them the same kind of credit that an entrepreneur has because they go for no income for a year and a half, 2 years. They quit a $200,000-300,000 job, and I was like, fair enough, dude. Like willing to do all the PGs and stuff like that for. I mean, so like the right people are willing to do the hard work, and I think it's all the other voices on top of that are pretending that it's easy that I get frustrated with, but like the real searchers that are out there willing to do a
yeah, the
deal.
people doing the deals, like, the buyers are phenomenal people, like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
they're all cool people. They're brave, they're taking the bull by the horns, they're owning their own destinies and taking big risks, and I love working with them. Like, that's the thing that's kinda kept me in this industry is, the entrepreneurs that are sellers and the buyers coming in to put their life savings into a deal and bet on
Mhm.
themselves. They're just my kind of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. The risk takers, owning their own outcome and responsibility, and what I think is so helpful about the role that you play, or what I like about you, how you stand out, and I want to get to what you're doing now and how to make this more efficient too. Is it's Clint. I had this guy listening in to my podcast at one point, and he called me up. He bought a business, listened to Walker's stuff, listened to my stuff, and he bought an HVAC business down in Florida. Was an IT guy. COVID hits. He's like, I haven't paid myself for 2 years. No, because I've all the working capital, all the inventory went up, labor went up, and I'm just like, it's hard. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And so like, I think it's like having those like people like you who are matchmaking, and it's not just getting a deal done, but have the integrity and the care to get the right deal done. There's so much to be said about that it's hard to get how important that is across to everybody. Even because a seller could want max purchase price, but then like if it's over leverage and the legacy and the people could be incinerated. I mean, like there's this give and take. You're getting deals done, man, and it's so important. What do you how do you this database that you have accumulated, is that where you went with this Deal Nominee? Is like this database that you were all jazzed up
yeah,
about with?
I feel like we've gone down so many routes here. I'm trying to think of which trail to jump back on here. Ultimately, we had this huge imbalance, buyers and sellers. We had a bottleneck at sellers. The $100 million offer I came up with is what if I stopped charging sellers? What if I just was the only broker on planet Earth that said, "Hey, if you've got a quality business that meets our standards of all the good deal stuff that I'm looking for, I'll sell your business for free." How about
That's a
0
$100 million offer, dude. I
Oh,
like it
how
a
about
lot.
0% commission? And then Alex Hormozy asked like, "Hey, and you should also try to do a guarantee if you can." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I can't guarantee you'll sell the business because there's too many things I don't control." But I'm like, "I can guarantee we'll match you up with a buyer that gives you an offer in the price range we tell you they will." Because we're very confident in that. We've had very strong success. So what we do now is we'll value your company up front for free. I'm not gonna tell you to the penny what it's gonna sell for because we're gonna run a competitive bidding process. But, like, let's say, Bob, the $500,000 earning owner comes to us and we look at it and we say, Bob, like, you're going to get at least 1.3 million here, but you might get as much as 1.9. It's going to fall somewhere in here. Like we ran the comps, we looked at this every which way. We looked at all the add backs and SDE adjustments. We looked at the NICS code comps in your industry, and like this, it's going to fall in here for sure. And Bob, if you're ready to take offers inside this range, we have thousands of pre-qualified buyers we have relationship with. We promise you we'll get you offers in that 1.3 to 1.9 range in 90 days or less. And if I don't bring you serious offers in that range in 90 days or less, I'll give you $10,000 and send you on your way. No harm, no foul. And so like
That's awesome, dude.
that's the pitch I came up with last year. And I was like, okay, that dog will hunt, like that
I
that
love it,
thing will
man.
run. I ran that by some business owners, and I'm like, would you go with that pitch versus every other broker that just says, pick me, pay me 10%, I'm the best? All right. Oh yeah, that's the no-brainer. And so in order to do that, like I still got to get paid somehow. Like I still got to figure out like how do I make money here? Then I'm like, it's got to come buy side. But I'm like, what's the biggest pain point of buyers? And maybe if I can solve their biggest pain point at the same time, they would pay me. And so for them, like probably like what Elliot was alluding to, a few weeks ago on your show, is like a lot of these people take 18 months to find and buy a good business because they have to deal with all this searching for needle.
Noise
It's like they're searching for a needle in a haystack for 18 months. They're not making money. They're striking out just like I was when I was a
and
buyer.
paying money to
Yeah.
advisors and or classes or whatever it might be.
And so it's like, what is a year of your life worth? And what is your time worth? And if I could get you that year of your life back as a buyer, would you be grateful enough to pay me a little bit of money here? And so for me, like the idea was if buying a business is looking for a needle in a haystack, I'm just going to make a freaking needle store where you can just go in and all you
That's
see are
fantastic.
needles. And in my metaphor, a needle is a good deal. It's that motivated seller with clean books that's bankable and it's priced realistically. And you can just go in and all the information is there, uh, completely ready to review, analyze. Banks have already pre-qualified it. They're ready to lend on it. And so we created this website called Deal Nominee where it's like a good deals only platform where sellers can sell their business for free. Buyers, we have a freemium model where it's like it's free to join. Excuse me. It's free to join and start looking at deals, making offers. But we have a premium membership. It's $99 a month, where if you're a premium member on Dealonomy, you get the first 10 days exclusives on the new deals. So it gives you first mover advantage, and you get some discounts on fees and some community and resources that the other free members don't get. So we're trying to stack a lot of value into that membership. So we're kind of building like a software company type of model, like a SaaS recurring revenue model. But then we do have a success fee that the buyer pays. It's smaller than a typical sell side fee, but we do have like it's kind of like tip your dealer when you close on a deal, like you're gonna pay us a small.
Does it get wrapped up in the SBA loan or something
Yeah,
like
so
that?
we're rolling it into the financing most
Yeah.
of the time, so it doesn't really eat into the down payment.
Do you know Ami Kassar at all?
I don't.
You should get to know him. He is a SBA business loan broker.
Okay.
So he gets paid by the bank.
Mhm.
So the people he goes and finds people SBA loans. I think he did $140 million in SBA loans last year. Him and his team. Yeah.
We're doing
So
some of that too on platform.
oh, cool.
So like we're having SBA lenders live on the platform, pre-qualifying deals. We can get a small referral from them and a small success fee from the buyer, and then that kind of like makes us still be able to make money without having to be sell side fees like everyone else. And we have,
Is that working with like Live Oak or something like that?
yeah, Live Oak's one of them.
Yeah. You know John Thwing by chance?
I do know him. I've met
Yeah,
him. Yeah.
he's got he's a Minnesotan, and he actually has a license plate called the SBA guy. I think he's done like 650 SBA loans. Ridiculous, but so that's so fascinating. So like, what do you anticipate for like deal volume, amount of sellers, amount of buyers? I mean, like how does that what kind of KPIs do you measure then as a SaaS company like that as a
Yeah.
platform?
So for us, it's just kind of building the inventory is really what drives everything. Uh, so I raised $3 million last year from a bunch of investors, including some of the who's who in this industry. Walker Deibel is one of our investors. Like he supports us. The CEO of Axial personally invested, and he's a friend of mine. Just incredible. Yeah, Peter. He's a crazy innovator in this space. Really
Yeah,
good
he's.
guy.
That's so fascinating because I was going to ask you because Peter's been on the show quite a few times, and how does that? How does your deal or how does Deal Nominee compare with?
Axial is an open marketplace for middle market deals mainly. So it's like any broker can put their deals on there and then they match make with buyers. But there's typically like a sell side fee from the M&A advisor, and then the buyer pays a buy side fee to Axial
Got it.
for the connection. We're a closed marketplace, so we don't allow other brokers or M&A advisors on the platform. We
Yeah, you're
source
just getting deals done on your
Yeah,
side.
we
Yep.
source every deal, we vet every deal, we standardize it so we can be more
Yep.
quick and standardized, and then we do the deal on platform. So when you go there, like you never leave the site. You can sign an NDA, go straight into a fully populated deal room,
You got it.
watch a video interview with the seller, see all the
So
recast
cool, dude.
financials,
That's
and then
awesome.
you can make an offer right on the site. We have an LOI builder, so it's like you click make offer, and bam, you make an LOI right on the site, you submit it, and then like when your offer gets accepted, it goes bam, dumps you right into a fully populated data room where you're already into your due diligence phase. And so we're building this like standardized, high tech, high speed process,
That's
and we still
awesome.
have these professional M&A advisors that came over from my firm that have been doing deals with me for the
Do you
last
know
10 years.
Kisan Patel by chance?
No.
He's got a podcast called M&A Science, and what the hell is his platform called? He's in big corporate, like so he specializes in but he built a platform like you're talking about, but it's for lean M&A or something like that. But like you might be an interesting because it's all like you're talking like $500 million deals and stuff like that he's doing, but he's trying to standardize like what you're.
Yeah, so
It's so fascinating. I love it.
unlike BizBuySell, unlike Axial, unlike any of the marketplaces, we're a closed ecosystem, and that's the only way we can maintain the quality control. Because if we're going to charge buyers, we have to solve their biggest pain point, which is lack of quality control. And so they have to trust our good deals only promise, and we have to make their lives super easy. And then it's worth paying a few percentage of a success fee because like, man, you just saved me a year. I'm so grateful that I was just able to go there, immediately see a good deal and click on it, make an offer, and you'll hold my hand through the whole process. And then our M&A advisors aren't in the tank for the seller like they usually are when it's a sell side M&A advisor. We're intermediaries every time. So we know the buyer's paying us. We know we have a duty to them. And so we're able to kind of take that more Switzerland approach to deal making and be like, we just got to find the win-win that works for both sides here. And if the seller is being stupid, we'll tell them they're being stupid. We won't.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other brokers
You
might,
don't have to tiptoe around it because
yeah,
you're just like, yeah, here's this
because
you're
it's like,
doing.
bro, I'm selling your business for free. Like, you got to
Yeah,
play ball. Like, you got to play ball and not be dumb here. Like,
yeah.
I told you the range it's going to sell for.
How does that make you feel to be able to just tell the truth?
I've always done
Like,
it, but it's like it's kind of refreshing that they're not. I feel like the seller
you're not
doesn't have you.
beholden to them. You're not beholden
They
to them,
don't have
right?
you like all the leverage anymore. Um, because like traditionally, even when I was sell side, it was very common. By the end of the deal, my seller's mad at me, and they're like, "Clint, who do you even work for? Are you working for this buyer? Or are you
Yeah,
working for
yeah,
me?"
yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, "Dude, we wrote
It's
up this
hard.
LOI. I'm trying to just stick to it. Your lawyer's trying to change the terms materially here." That's not me working for the buyer. That's me saying your lawyer's being dumb and now you're being dumb listening to him when we already had a deal. Like we already shook on this deal here. And so they think I'm taking the buyer's side, but really I'm like, dude, I'm working for the deal and you're sabotaging your own deal. And sometimes these sellers are their own worst enemies. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of your job as a broker is to kind of have that authority where you can push back against these big egos and help them settle into this deal. Because I empathize with the sellers because they get one shot at this usually, and it's like their whole life savings and retirement's on the line. It's very emotional. It's their baby, and they get bad advice left and right from their attorneys, CPAs, golf buddies, all tell them to retrade the deal. You're giving your deal away, and and like they're gonna. throw some monkey wrench in there that's just gonna kill the whole deal. And like you have to have that authority to as a broker to push back when you need to, even if it's your client. Like they need some tough love sometimes.
No, like, would you say compassionate bubble
Yeah,
bursting?
yeah, yeah,
um, oh my God, so many thoughts and questions. It's so cool, man. How, what is the process you go through to actually get good qualified deals? Like, what's the funnel of like shitty deals to like what you're doing with them? What level of due diligence are you going through with them? So like I'm here, I'm a buyer, and I'm going like, what actually has been done on that side?
yeah. We're gonna try to push this as far as we can. I don't think Deal Nominee has arrived yet. We're brand new, so we raised money last year. We built in stealth all year for about 9 months, and we just went live a week ago.
It's awesome.
So this is like launch.
Exclusive launch.
Yeah,
Yes, I love it.
you're my first podcast since we launched. So
That's awesome.
glad to be here, man. But yeah, like what we want to be is as cutting edge as we can get on this. I think eventually we'll probably have full on quality of earnings in every deal. Uh, that's just there when the buyer shows up already. In the meantime, like we go through this process of we call like a marketing qualified lead, an MQL is somebody that we just have determined owns the business, wants to sell the business, and is doing at least 1 million in revenue. Okay, like we're gonna have a conversation. We have a conversation that's like a pre-qualifying conversation before we value it. And the next conversation, we determine why do you want to sell this business? We're looking for motive and we're looking for bottom line earnings. And so that's where I'm going to tease out of them a ballpark of what SDE might be. So I'm going to say, hey, Bob, like, what was your net profit last year? Did you pay yourself out of that or not? Did you, like, and I'm trying to determine if this is going to add up to something that's going to be big enough
Meaningful.
and
Yeah.
meaningful. And then if it sounds like it is, we can tease that out and play in 20 questions with them for a quick call. Then I'll say, all right, I think you have a real reason you want to sell. I think you're going to meet our minimum standards. We want to see your financials. So we'll take in the profit and loss statements. We look back 3 years. We look at interims. We also look at tax returns. So we're looking, that's where you catch a lot of red flags. Is
Yeah.
just like, are the profit and loss statements totally different than the tax returns? Is there a lot of tax shenanigans going on here that we can't explain that's going to kill us in bank underwriting? So we're kind of looking for that. We're kind of, I would call it pre-underwriting,
Mhm.
um, pre-due diligence kind of stuff. We've done
What
this.
kind of dumpster fires are you looking through, man? Because like coming from the finance space, I'm just like, holy buckets. It's just, it's rough. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing in this like Main Street world for so long that like
are you numb to it?
I'm just used to it. I had a guy, I mean, it was just this week, like, first phone call. I cannot believe this guy. He pretty much admitted to about $1 million a year of tax fraud to me, and we didn't even know each other. Like, he's just like, he was like, yeah, I make about 2 million a year, but like my tax returns only say I make about 1 million. But my second house on the lake, I run all the utilities through there. I rebuilt the dock on it. I ran that through there. I ran this, that, and that, and the other thing through there. He's just like telling me every single thing he did, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, I'm like, I don't want to hear this. First off, I don't want to
No,
hear
no,
this.
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
and I'm like, secondly, like we can't present anything that's like that stuff. Like I can get you paid on the normal ad backs. Like
Yeah. Legal
we went to
normal
the
items.
conference in Vegas that was kind of discretionary, but it was the industry trip or whatever.
Yep.
That was $10,000. I could sell that to the buyer, right? Like
Yep.
like that's kind of a fun conference. It's an industry conference, but they play for a few days. They write it off.
Yep.
I'll get you that $10,000 run through your exit multiple. But I'm not going to get your lake house's dock, building project as an ad back because that's so far out of line. Like,
Well,
and so I tell those people you can only steal it once, man. Like If,
That's a great line,
yeah,
dude.
if you stole it from the IRS, you ain't stealing it from the buyer. Like you get it once.
I'm for sure. I will quote you every time I say that now. I'm totally grabbing that one. Um,
Yeah.
makes sense on the ad backs. Okay, so like, dude, when I for the five years or so that I had Arcona, the fractional CFO firm, like people, I'll go with your 3 out of 4, maybe 4 out of 5 unlegible financials. Like, hey, I have 100% profit. You don't have any cost of goods, actually. You know, I mean, like, so like it's just they're unlegible and like you can't see the story. And that's where like I have been so mission driven about like helping people prove their story. What do you see there?
I've done lots of kind of creative deal structures. I think there's always a solution. Um, but it's solved in price and terms and financial structuring. But like we as long as there's a real income stream that we can prove, I kind of don't even care how messy it is. Like I kind of boil it down to what can I prove here.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to think of an example.
It's almost like the elimination type, but the other way around, right? You're going like, you just go, okay, well, if we've got $2 million in revenue, which we can prove, we can look at the tax returns. And it, like my old partner used to say, if the balance sheets tie out and the net income's right, it doesn't matter what everything else is on it. It's like you're just reorganizing whatever GL codes there are, but like the net income will be right.
So for instance, there's a lot of deals out there that I think are good deals, but because of how they run their finances or other factors, they're unbankable. And so I can determine kind of like this is what the business would be worth if you had done this correctly, but you have done it incorrectly. And we can't go amend all these tax returns because that would red flag you. It's going to like kick you out of being able to get an SBA loan if all the tax returns the last 3 years were amended. Um, it's going to kind of kill you in underwriting. So guess what, Bob? Like, if you want to sell this, you're going to be the bank. You know, like I can still get you close to what it would be worth from a buyer, but like you're going to have to be the bank because you have rendered yourself unbankable. Um, I had one situation. It was a an automotive and tire business. It was a pretty good little business, but we were set up for an SBA closing, and you know how they pull the transcripts from the IRS for the tax returns right before closing. I already had the tax returns. They looked great. Everything looked great. The transcripts got pulled directly from the IRS, and they were night and day different than the tax returns I had been provided. And sure enough, good old boy owner had him hemmed and hawed and had every excuse of like, oh, TurboTax must have made a mistake, you know, or whatever Timothy Geithner excuse. But
Uh,
of course, it was the other direction, right? It was, you know, the ones the IRS said he wasn't making any money, and the ones he showed me showed he was making a lot of money. And and the bank just walked. They said, "We're out. We're
yeah,
gone.
we don't trust any of
We
this.
can't do this." And he was like, "I can fix it. I can amend the tax returns." They're like, "No, we're not. We're not playing that. We're out." And he's done. And I said to this guy, I was like, Joe or whatever his name was. I was like, you're the bank now if you want to close this. And I told the buyer, I was like, here's what happened. The bank's gone. This guy still is old and needs to sell. He's got no other options. He's painted into a corner here. He's willing to be a bank, but if you want to buy it, you obviously can't trust this numbers either.
Yeah. Yeah. You have
So
to, is it like, but like earn out slash sellers note?
so what can we trust? So we actually had to do an activity where we had to just go to the source data because now we can't trust the QuickBooks. We can't trust the tax returns at all. Like they're just useless. And so what can we trust? Okay, we're going to look at credit card processing machine. Like we're going to look how much money ran through that credit card machine. We're going to look at he had a U-Haul dealership. So we're going to look at like the U-Haul data from the U-Haul system. Oh, like how many U-Hauls were rented? and all this. We're going to look at the invoices from all
Like
of the.
forensic accounting. I love
Yeah,
it
but I
so
mean, we
much.
were able to determine like it's a freaking automotive repair shop, tire store, U-Haul supercenter place, but it's like all those things had source data that weren't manipulatable that we could go back and we could say, all right, well, let's just see like we can prove this revenue. We can look at the payroll data from ADP. We know this much went out in payroll. That's a big one. And then we can look at all the expenses, the cost of goods, all the tires and stuff that they bought that went on. Like we have that directly from those
Oh,
vendor
so
accounts.
fascinating. I love
And
it.
then we were able to at least ballpark, like, okay, it is kind of making what we thought it was making, but this guy's doing tax shenanigans that's making him unbankable. And so we got the buyer comfortable with it, and he ended up getting a little discount, getting friendly seller financing, but it was like 90% seller financing because this guy crapped the bed with his tax returns, right? But he had no other choice. So you solve it with that's just kind of Main Street and like
Which I think is still like, I think, back to, when I hear people say, well, I might as well keep, I call it the three multiple hamster wheel. I might as well keep it for another 3 years because I make the same amount of money as I would if I were to sell it. And it's like, but if in when my experience with, because I play a little bit above the market that you're playing, but I think it's really important because people listening in are a little bit of both, but also a lot of my clients, my coaching clients, buy these companies. And I what I like to do a lot, Clint, is like, what are we actually trying to solve for? And like most of the time, it's the job. It's like I'm tired, exhausted, whatever. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I like a lot of my clients that are in between 20, 30-ish million dollars, they've built the whole playbook, the private equity family office playbook. They got the 3-statement model. They got their executives, comp plans. I mean, the whole thing to get themselves to the highest possible part. Finding executives that are capable, who are 200-ish and capable, is hard. It's also unicorn hunting. It's as hard to find those type of people is probably a good deal, is what I've come to this conclusion of. So when I was talking to Elliot, I'm like, there is an opportunity. I feel kind of like you probably 8 years ago. If there's 100,000 searchers out there, like, because I've got these comp plans that I've designed for my clients of like short-term comp plans with long-term phantom equity where it's tied to the target, normalized EBITDA, working capital, debt, taxes, etc. Between here and there, here's exactly what it was. I'm like, we could figure out a way to match these people together. But I bring this all up because even seller financing for someone that's tired, to find a qualified person that's capable of running that company is a godsend. So you might not have gotten your money up front, but for anybody listening in that's in your world, it's like it is so hard to find these people that are capable of running companies, that like to just not have to shut it down and to like hand over that cash flow stream and get your 100 grand a year or whatever it is for however long is a miracle, to be honest.
yeah. I want to introduce a concept called whale sharks. I've talked about this. I'm going to write a
Well,
book.
sharks,
Whale sharks.
whale sharks.
I'm trying to coin this into small business vernacular. But I think all your clients that are at the high level that you work with, most of them are going to be whale sharks. They're
Whale
kind of
shark.
a they're kind of between an investor and an entrepreneur.
Totally. Yep.
And so that just comes from the language of the financial world. The high rollers are whales. And then the Shark Tank world of entrepreneurship, the
Whale
entrepreneurs are
sharks.
sharks.
Yeah.
But somebody that's kind of
And isn't it the killer whale? Maybe it's killer whale, dude, because
yeah.
right.
So what I think a whale shark is kind of a normal person that's never raised a fund and gone like the PE full blown route, but they've done an acquisition strategy that's created abnormal amounts of wealth in small to mid sized businesses. And I find there's kind of three different patterns. There's the platform builder that's kind of like the miniature private equity that has like a nice company and then they buy their smaller competitors out. They
I have like
gobble
3
them
of
up.
those clients, and yep,
Yeah, so they gobble up them, and it could be horizontal or vertical purchase.
geographical or something. Yep.
But yeah, they're building their little empire, but they know one industry really well, and they're doing acquisitions in that industry and building that empire. Another one is the duplicator, which is like they just have a model that works and they just wash, rinse, repeat. They just drop it in another location, open up another location. A lot of those use franchise models. Some have their own independent models that work,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they just McDonald's the heck out of it.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
duplicate, duplicate. And then there's a third kind, and that's more of like the portfolio investor, the holdco. That's
Mhm.
more like diversify. They're more like a horse better. They're finding the operating partners that are good that they can plug in and give those kinds of comp plans
Mhm.
to. But they're kind of like the puppet master that's building up like a business bouquet, if you will, of like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it's a
Yep.
bunch of disparate businesses, but they know if it's a good business and I find the right operator, then I can be kinda like the deal and money guy that's
Yep.
advising the
Yep.
company, but then they're my horse that's like
Yep.
that's running this thing, and then I meet those guys, some of them will have a portfolio of 10, 20
Yep.
companies.
Yeah, I
But
think do you find that those are more rare? Because I don't have any of them as clients, but I think what's fascinating about how you are articulating this, Clint, is, and it's probably because of like what I like to talk about. Like I love to learn all this stuff. Like part of my training program is like owner to operator, and it's how to be a capital allocator. Because like I got a client that's going to be selling for a lot of money right now, and I got a couple other clients that like meaningful liquidation event, not liquidity events. And it's like, I talk about the weighted average cost of capital and the buildup methodology of like, where are we going to be putting our money if it's not in this business? And what happens is we end up, it'd be really nice if we found a commercial cleaning company that kicked off $1 million. And it's like, yeah, we're actually trying to solve for the job, not for the asset. Right? And so like, so what ends up happening is like all the stuff that you and I and Walker and Cody and Alex Ramosi and all these people are talking about. And like the guy that owns the boiler company. I'm like, you have a great business, commercial cleaning, electrical contracting, nursing, and like steel fabricator. I'm like, everyone wants your businesses. How about we get out of the freaking job and run it like everyone else would? And the best part is you are not saddled with $5 to $10 million in debt. So you can actually weather the storms, overpay for the people, and not have to put your money into a bunch of fiat shit. And people are like, huh. And it's like, and it's not everybody, but what I like is like leveling that and understanding. And then it's like, so a couple of my clients that are selling right now, Clint, they fully understand valuations. So they're very aware of like, I'm going to bring forward my earnings potential because of these four reasons. But like, I think it's fascinating how you called that the whale sharks, because I think where you're playing and where I'm playing, like it's taken me this long to figure out who my ideal people are to work with. And my old family business, I should have just looked in the mirror. It's like we were 20 million. That's what I ran. So naturally I, equalized around what I knew. But like it's so fascinating because like what you're working on for, it's very encouraging for me because I look at, me coming through the lens of the size companies that I'm talking about, like the deal structures like are like you start getting down towards your world and you need to find someone that wants to work. You need to be able to get the deal done financially and structurally. And the seller needs to have something of value there and have right expectations. And like I said, you are a magician. like I really think so. But there's 90% more people in that space than in my space. And there's like people
so
need help.
this whole market is like a wedding cake of the higher you go in size and revenue, the smaller the layer gets. Except it's like, way exaggerated. Like the base layer, the smallest, almost unsellable layer is the biggest by
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I think the metaphor of the whale shark works really well because a whale shark in nature is a shark. So they're an entrepreneur, DNA, they're a shark. They're not a whale, but they behave kinda like a whale. Like, a whale shark is more docile, and
I love it.
they eat plankton, but they get bigger than every other shark. They're the biggest shark in the world, and they're able to just gobble up casually
I
market
love it
share and
so
dollars.
much.
And so think about this, 5% of small businesses ever hit 1,000,000 in revenue.
Mhm.
I mean, that's like, we're not transacting on 95% of small businesses because we don't even talk to the ones under 1,000,000 in revenue. But
Yeah, that's
that
crazy. It's
that's basically the plankton out there, bro. Like that 95%. And so if you're in the game with one of these platforms or if you're running like a real professional manager in this space, where you can really professionalize your operations and install a deep leadership bench and compete for market share in a more sophisticated way than the small boomer owners, you're going to one way or another, you're going to gobble up their market share. You're either going to buy their business for very low multiples, and just take their employees, their customer list, their ringing phone number, whatever is valuable to you, and do quick sales and buy that in and stuff that like an individual buyer would never buy because it's not enough for them to make a
I have
living.
quite a few clients doing that right now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do too. So I have like I have a plumbing and HVAC company, um, well shark guy that I know that he'll buy stuff that I would never sell because it's too small for us to work with as a brokerage on a one-off deal basis. But he does like easy button exits for his industry for the truck in a truck guy for the really little one. And he has, like, whole systems for that. And a lot of these owners, like, their only other option is to just hang it up. They just
Right, right,
sell their
right.
truck and close. But this guy says, "Hey, I'll buy your truck for what you were gonna sell it for, but I'll also buy your phone number and your name, and I've got these systems set up to where anybody that calls that number for the next 3 years, I'm gonna give you 20% of the sales that come from it." And,
That's awesome.
and wouldn't that be better than just closing? Or
Yeah, yeah,
and so
yeah.
they do stuff like that, and now they're able to, like, be the buyer of last resort or, like, the easy button off ramp for all these retiring boomers in their industry, and, like, I'm even thinking about that. I don't know if I should say this publicly, but, like, my industry, business brokerage, has a lot of gray hair boomer
It's everywhere, Clint. I
that
mean,
don't know,
they
but they've built, like, a nice practice,
yeah, it's their
but
job.
they haven't built something sellable either,
I
and we go
I
around
know.
preaching to everybody that you need to do this if you wanna sell, but none of us actually
How
practice
about
what
the
we.
attorneys and the CPAs and the I mean, like, you
Yeah.
could go a lot it's so crazy.
So here's the thing I wanna, like, stress to the listeners, like, you can become a whale shark. You can create a system that works and that you can grow bigger than all the other sharks without ever having to go get institutional capital. Like, do this yourself. But one of the greatest strategies, you go after that 95% that I'll never touch as a broker by building in the easy button exit for the people that have no other option in your space that creates a win-win for them, gets them more than zero, more than they would have got alternatively. And now you've absorbed the plankton. You've absorbed
Yeah, yeah,
all their market share and you get really big doing that. So that's just kind of a neat thing I'm learning about, and I'm starting to observe that in nature, and I think
I
that's a trend going on right now.
I think it's gonna continue to accelerate too because Clint, I mean, I I do a lot of speaking in a lot of different niches because 'cause I've done a lot of Vistage workshops and a lot of EO and a lot of different industry, and everyone's like, "Ryan, our industry, there's a lot of people retiring, private equity's got into it," and, like, every industry thinks they're, like, slightly unique, and I'm like, "It's a demographic thing."
Yeah, you go to that
It's
trade show and there's 1,000 members of that industry there. Private equity all wants those 10, that are the
I
10 big
know,
ones,
right.
but the other, like, 990 are, like, 900 of them aren't even sellable,
Mhm.
and 90 are gonna be going to the biz buy sell
And
business
they're all
broker.
about the same age, to your
Yeah.
point, and, like, this is where I think it's what's fascinating about what you have as well, and like what Walker and Elliott or anybody playing on that buyer side is there, I think, because I don't know if you follow like the 2030 Great Depression, ITR Economics talks about it. They're on my podcast every 90 days. Peter Zion talks about it, and Raw Paul from, I mean, there's all these macro, I mean, like it's a demographic thing. And I say this because like I think the younger people that are capable of eating shit and running a company are going to be the rare thing. It's going to be the
They'll be able to
constraint.
write their own ticket.
Yeah, I think so too. And so,
Yeah.
like, whether they're buying companies or whether they're going to be the executive team, I think understanding someone's like goals over the next 5 to 10 years, whether they're going to be buying whether they're going to become a a whale shark or eat the plankton or whatever their strategy is, understanding that the people part of this is going to be a really important key factor. And it's interesting that you've got that big of a pipeline of those type of people because that's it's a big deal, man.
Yeah, so for us to be able to scale Deal Nominee and become the company we wanna be, so, like, we just hit the market with 20 something deals. We'll probably be at 100 in a year, but we want to get to where we're 1,000 closings a year on our platform, all in that kind of quality space. For us to do that, we have to have that $100 million offer, which I think we've nailed the offer. But we have to create that type of deal flow to feed the best buyers in this space. So we're looking for those buyers that have some liquidity, that are serious and know what they're doing. And I view like what we're trying to create as a platform is like the bottom of the funnel where the rubber hits the road. If like the Alex Hormozis and Cody Sanchez's are the top of the funnel where
Mhm.
everyone gets starry-eyed sold on this idea and this concept, and they're like, "That sounds really great." And then they start like learning about it and then realizing, "Holy crap, this is harder than I thought. Man, this takes a long time. Man, this is, like this." But they eventually like they find, okay, when you get to a certain level
What's the expectations?
of 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 readiness and you're actually ready to rubber hit the road, you're ready to transact on a quality deal and put down the crack pipe that you're going to get 100% seller financing on anything good,
Mhm.
which is a dream. Um, and you're ready to just go to the freaking needle store and buy your needle, or whatever. Like we're there. Like we're there at the bottom of the funnel
Yep.
where people
I like
transact, and
I
we're
like it.
not trying to sell the dream. We're trying to sell good businesses, and we want to do that
Ooh,
at scale. And
I
and that's what we raised money
have you
for.
played that's a good have you coined that? We're not trying to sell would you
The
say?
dream.
Yeah, I like that a lot, man. I mean, it's just so straightforward.
I don't think I've said that yet.
Yeah,
That
we're not trying to sell dreams. We're trying to sell good businesses at scale. I love it. All right, AI. Why don't you capture that up and throw it in? Because like
we'll do that.
it's and where I want to play in that, Clint, is like it's pure education, man. I have found my journey of learning just so enjoyable personally, and like just helping people reconcile expectations and reality so they can make better choices that are aligned with whatever they want, like on their terms, like and kind of like what you're doing. Like I'm about ready to not read, but like launch all my new framework in the playbook. I'm working on the book, and I'm gonna like kind of what Hermosi talks about. Like it's gonna be videos and training that's all free. It's like, here's it all. Because like I want to find the people that are working with, I mean, I think that's, and I don't know if you found that as like, as you have had all that popularity and growth, like I just want to have a more effective mechanism to work with the people that I want to exchange time with, and like, and
And I think that's where I led with writing and teaching and speaking. I'm about to go harder into the video world too because that's where the world's moving. I'm into podcasting now, but like I'm gonna start doing videos, even though it's outside my comfort zone. Like that's where you reach people. But to me, like I'm not trying to sell courses. I'm not trying to sell the dream. Like to me, if you can give, and build that credibility, that like I'll shoot you straight. I'll be like the one voice out there that's done this a bunch of times. I'm not trying to sell you like smoke and mirrors here. Like I'll shoot you straight. You can get some quality education, no charge. But when you're ready and serious to transact, like we make
yep,
money
come
actually
back.
doing deals.
Yep,
Like
yep, come
we
back.
want to make money from facilitating transactions. Like that's I don't
Um,
know. Call me old fashioned, but that's I just feel like that's earning your money. Like
yeah,
really earning it, or
that's what
something.
I'm doing, right?
Just
I don't sell dreams. I sell
yeah,
businesses, good businesses at scale.
yeah.
I
That's what
might
we're
have to
trying to
title
do.
the podcast that. Well, and I
Yeah.
think it's for me, man, like as we're wrapping up here, like what I liked you so much of your values, your background and all that stuff. And like what I found, and I'm still working on it, dude, is trying to make money while providing the value and the impact that I want to make in a way that feels good. It was hard. It's been hard, man. I've had 3 different companies over the last decade trying to figure that out. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of threaded that needle, and it sounds like you have too. Back to your point where like you're not selling courses, you're not doing this. Like I sell companies, but I'm able to do all these other things, which is like preaching, you know, the good word. But at the end of the day, I do sell companies.
Yeah. But I think there's a certain sacredness to that, and I think part of being a small business owner is like you shouldn't get into a business if you don't believe in what you're selling. And I get so jazzed about selling businesses because I think we're changing lives. Like I think we really are like the seller needs to sell most of the time. and it's helping them finally receive the reward of their lifetimes of labor, and transition to a whole new phase of life. And the buyer is often like, again, like completely reinventing themselves, and it's a real sacred moment. I am a Christian. We do operate our company with biblical values. I do we don't force anything on anyone. We're not like super faith forward, but like when you're just in that sacred moment with people and facing down those emotions and those big moments, you get opportunities to speak into their heart. You get opportunities to pray with people and serve as a meaningful and have a meaningful impact on people in a way that I think a lot of average churchgoers and Christian ministers like might not get exposed to that person in that critical, emotional, difficult moment. You get to be there right there with them. And so there is like a ministry aspect to what we do. And then we're trying to build like more infrastructure around that so we can live out our values in the marketplace and in the world and support causes we believe in. And then again, that's just me trying to live my values out with my business, and I want you to do that with your business. Like I want every business owner to think beyond just how can I maximize uh,
The
profit.
yeah, the
Like, but like
maximize the transaction,
but
right?
you're going to be happiest, and you're going to be happiest on your deathbed looking back on life if you like took care of your family and you made a positive difference on the world around you, and like you get to write your own story with a business in ways that you can't even do when you're playing someone else's game.
Mhm.
And so I love that about it, and I think, like, entrepreneurship and businesses in general can be this great super engine for just doing good and making a positive impact on the world, and I'm part of a group called C12, which is a
Oh, are you
Christian.
really? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a Christian CEO group similar to EO or Vistage. It's just
Mhm.
for believers that we all believe we're building good businesses for a greater purpose, and we all view ourselves as stewards. That means like this isn't really my company; it's kind of God's company, and I'm temporarily happen to be owning it and running it. But this whole world is God's; everything's in it, and we're here to like bring Him glory and be His ambassadors on this earth. And how we conduct ourselves matters, and so, like, we all kind of have that philosophy. And so, when we're talking KPIs around the round table at C12, we are talking profit and loss, but we're also talking about impact. We're talking about
Mhm.
things we're doing. And if you don't have good answers there, like, we'll call you out on it. Like,
It's
we'll be
awesome.
like, dude, like, and so we're looking out for every month we check in on our marriages, on our families, on our how's your faith life going, and if you're not firing on all cylinders on that stuff, like we're gonna stop what we're doing right there and like make sure you got those bases covered before we go into the business materials. But I've been part of that organization for about 5 or 6 years.
Have you really?
It's been really
It's
huge,
awesome.
really huge in my life. So if there's anybody out there's like a Christian business owner that feels like you might be all alone or need like a support group that gets it at that level and not just maximizing for profit, but maximizing for the glory of God, like C12's your
How
uh,
big is that organization now? Because I've been exposed to
3,000 3,000 companies.
wow,
And we just had our semi-annual conference. There were 1,700 CEOs in Dallas last a few weeks ago. I was there,
cool.
and it was just a really neat room to be in. So it's
Must be very good energy, which
yeah.
is what yeah. So you got all the entrepreneur stuff. I can't remember one of my clients or someone that said I'm very religious. This is what I'm paraphrasing. I'm very religious, but I'm really competitive.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can relate. It's like I need a platform and environment to release that competitiveness. But it was a cool way of putting it. I think
Yeah.
it's fun to be around people like that too.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, thank you so much for your time, Clint. This has been so fun catching up. It had been way too long. I am here for your support any way I can help, man, with me, my audience, my community. I love what you're doing. I support it. We'll put all the links in the show notes. If you want this raw file or whatever to clip it up and give your video editors some new material to work with, I will help you any way I can.
We'll definitely do that, and really appreciate you having me on, and been great catching up with you as well.